MMA Oddsbreaker, of course, is Frank Trigg. This week we got Rumble, young man Rumble on the other line, Anthony Johnson. He's got a really big fight coming up with Antonio Rogerio Nogueira. Big fight, but not really that big of a fight for you. The biggest fight for you is trying to find the right weight class to fight it. Now that you found that, you kind of seem to be on a little bit of a tear, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I found the right weight class I need to be in, which is 205. So, I mean, everything's just been working out.
How, obviously the weight for you was easy. You're a big guy, big frame guy. When you're making 170, we were all wondering how the hell you made the weight. And you didn't make it very easily. When you did make it, you went up to 85 for a second, jumped up to 205. And it seemed like you grew into the weight class literally within 10 weeks. All of a sudden you were that big. It wasn't that hard of an adjustment physically for you. Did it feel like a hard adjustment training difference? Because, you know, working out with guys that are 170 pounds, working out with guys that are 185 pounds, and now working out with guys that fight at 205, that's a huge weight difference. Was training a little bit harder for you or no?
No, I never worked out with guys that were my size. That was the thing. I always worked out with guys that were bigger. So most of the guys that I trained with were fighting either 185 or 205. So I never really trained with guys that was fighting 170.
Who's the toughest guy in the room right now that's giving you the most fits whenever you guys train together?
Honestly, the whole everybody has a different style, so you just have to adjust to it. But all of them are just tricky. So I have a teammate named Guto and Sente. I mean, he just lost, but in the training room, he's a beast. He's a beast, And then whenever Tyrone is healthy, he gives me a run for my money and throws a shot. So whenever we're all in there and working together, it's tough.
How much is it hurting you right now, having Rashad out and having Tyrone Sprong out right now? Like, I know those are two big guys, not only big guys body wise, but they're also mentors for you a little bit. Where they're older than you, they've had a little bit more experience, they talk to you quite a bit, and they're great training partners. How much does it kind of hurt you not having those two guys around?
I mean, it hurts, but we make do with what we have. We have guys on the team that might not, have big names, but they still give me good work.
Now, you obviously got my old strength and conditioning coach, Jake Bonacci, down there, and he's always finding a way to up the game, change the game, make it different. Couture used him his last, 5-6 fights, and then, I took him over. Then you guys swept him up from us, bastards, and took him away from us out here. I've been begging him to come back. He's like, dude, I'm not moving. Like, there's no way to leave. It's amazing to watch the difference in you guys from when he was there to when he's not there. Do you still notice a little bit of a difference every time, every training camp? You go, wow, Jake really got me a little bit faster. He got me a little bit stronger, or he did something else, or made me more flexible. Like, do you still see something different with Jake every single time now?
Yeah. I mean, Jake definitely adds a lot to the camp. I've noticed the difference when guys work with him and when they don't. When guys work with him, obviously the results are pretty damn good, Yeah. And I've seen the guys that don't work with him and they're not in near as good shape as, the guys that work with him. And he has a better winning percentage than with the guys that work with him and the guys that don't work with him. So sometimes I wish those guys open up their eyes and see what's in front of them. But, everybody has their own style and has their, own way of doing a camp and get better. But I prefer to have Jake in my stable of guys to help me reach the top.
You talked about earlier have a guy just lost, but and forgive me, I forget his name, your training partner, but he's a beast in practice. And do you see a lot of that where guys they tend to fade away from certain practices, they tend to fade away from certain things because the practices are going to be tough? Like, I know if I had to be in there, and I'm a wrestler, and I had to have a wrestling day where Kenny was going to be in my group, that I knew that day I'm just going to take an ass kicking, and I might shy away from that day because no matter what I do, I'm getting beat up. Or if I've got to go, it's a Muay Thai day, it's a kicking day, and I got Tyrone Sprong in my group, I know that day I'm taking an ass kicking, and I might pull back. Do you see guys that in your group that kind of shade away from not only Jake, but shade away from some of the other coaches, specifically because it's almost too tough for them and they don't feel like they're going to get anything out of it? Not
really. I mean, I see that more not in just, you know, when it comes down to coaching, when it comes down to training partners, I've seen some training partners that, you know, in training, you're like, okay, you know, this guy's running from me, for example, you know. But then when it comes down to a fight, he's got a ton of confidence, you know what I mean? And it's just like, okay, I can see why he has a ton of confidence because he feels like he's trained with the best and has seen basically everything that can be thrown at him, and the opponent has nothing that can surprise him. You know, so it's like that a lot of times with the training partners. Not really the coaches, but just the training partners.
Well, let's talk about having a bunch of stuff thrown at him. Nogueira is 38 years old, and you're only 30. And it's an 8-year gap is a huge gap in the sport. And Antonio Nogueira's had everything thrown at him at one time. But to beat him, you have to be kind of tricky. Have you come up with a game plan that's gonna be a little bit tricky for him that he's not gonna see? Or are you gonna come at him like Anthony Johnson, like, look, here's what I do, I'm better than you, and I dare to try to stop it?
Yeah, that's exactly what it's gonna be like, you know. I respect Nogueira. He's a legend. You know, he might not have, you know, the credentials as his brother, but he's right there. He's been in battles. We've all seen his battles in Pride and stuff like that, and we know what he's capable of. But, you know, he just hasn't fought a guy like me, I don't believe. You know, I think I'm hungrier, I'm bigger, faster, stronger. He just has more experience than me, but at the same time, you know, I don't think that's going to play a big role in the fight. You know, I think it just comes down to whoever's, you know, better prepared and wants it more.
It seems like the Nogueiras both come out with, there always seems like some kind of press release or some kind of information coming out from their camp. Hey, we've been training with the Cuban boxing national coach. We've been wrestling with the national team from Brazil. We've got this, you know, this incredible new jiu-jitsu game. I'm in the best shape of my life. I'm the best strength of my life. And they get inside the ringer cage and they don't seem to have improved or changed really at all from the fight before. Do you still get that sense from Antonio that it's more press release than his actual substance when he comes inside that cage now, especially at 38 years old and taking the kind of damage he has?
I mean, honestly, I don't know. I don't pay attention to him like that. You know, I just focus on me and do what I do, and whatever he's doing, I mean, I'm gonna let him keep doing it, but I'm gonna make sure I make, you know, minor adjustments, make sure I get what I need to get done. You know, so if he's comfortable doing what he's doing and in his element, then hell, you know, more power to him. I want to make sure I go that extra step to get above and beyond.
You obviously been working with Kenny Monday, and you spent a lot of time wrestling. Do you feel like your wrestling game has really, truly improved to the point where you're like, now, I don't care who shoots on me, I don't care what happens to me, they're not going to be able to take me down, or if they do take me down, it's in a position that I want to be in when we hit the canvas?
Well, I've always been pretty confident in my wrestling. I think it was just me growing up to actually apply the things that I knew when it comes down to wrestling, you know, with the MMA and stuff. But, you know, Kenny helped me out, and now we have Greg Jones, who's a D1 national champ, too, from West Virginia. He's down, and he's doing an awesome job with the team and helping out with wrestling a lot. So he's putting in a lot of time already with us. You know, individually, he's putting in a lot of time.
How old is Greg Jones? Do you know?
Greg is probably 34, probably 35 tops.
Man, he's young, but it seems like maybe it's a different Jones. It's got to be a different Jones that I remember come out of West Virginia when I was competing. But that guy would be 42, 43 at this point. So
no, Greg wrestled in the same era with Rashad.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's why I know who he is. Okay, that's right.
Yeah, he won the national championship at West Virginia.
Okay, all right. That's why I know. It's like the name was driving me crazy, but now I know why. It's because he came out of that same class that Rashad did. So that's why I know.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, having a guy like that's still young, that still has the ability, you know, to like, I can still wrestle, just not to that level anymore because I'm 10 years older. It's difficult to get that body moving. But he can get the body moving and knows what he's doing. Do you kind of go, okay, look, we're going to have throw a couple punches in here to make this a little bit more even so I can punch you in the head a little bit and slow you down?
No, I mean, Greg gets the hang of it. You know, he loves MMA, and he's definitely willing to learn just as much as he's willing to teach. So it all works out.
Okay. All right. Well, what else do you see about Nogueira that I haven't really seen when I watch tape? Is there something special about him that you see that the rest of the press hasn't really covered that you know you're going to have to battle with when you get inside the cage?
No, not really. I mean, you know, he's Brazilian. He fights with a lot of pride. You know what I mean? So, I definitely have to make sure I break him and not let him get confident.
Right. You can't let him get in there and get confidence. The same thing we saw this last weekend with Donald Cerrone and Jim Miller. Jim Miller let Cerrone all of a sudden back in the fight by letting him get confident, feeling comfortable. And then, of course, you saw Cerrone knock out Jim Miller. And that's the thing you got to do with the Nogueiras. You can't let them ever get comfortable. And if Antonio gets comfortable, he's going to be a nightmare. But if you don't let him get comfortable, he kind of falls apart. I think with your style, your strength, and your length, he's going to be uncomfortable from the very beginning.
Yeah, I just got to make sure I keep pressure on him and work him. You know what I mean? I can't let him like sit back and be comfortable and find his range or anything like that. So we'll see. You know, it's always easier said than done. So we will definitely see how it goes.
Well, Anthony, thanks for coming on to MMA Oddsbreaker. I appreciate it. And good luck against Antonio. It's going to be a great fight. And it's really finally, I'm glad you finally found the weight class you deserve to be in. That's comfortable for you. It's still a growing experience. You're getting a lot older mentally as well as physically when you're out there fighting. And it's fun to watch you grow up within the cage. It really has been a neat process.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.
All right, buddy.